It's always showtime at BetMGM Sports. You can make your first bet risk-free up to $1,000 when you sign up with the code SHERDOG. Don't let another game day go by without having the ultimate sports betting app in the palm of your hand. Discover non-stop excitement with BetMGM's state-of-the-art technology and dozens of betting options, including live wagers, props, parlays, and much more. No matter what your favorite sport is or how you like to wager, find out why there's nothing like getting a W at the king of sportsbooks. Use the code SHERDOG and make your first bet risk-free up to $1,000. Download the BetMGM app and sign up today. Visit BetMGM.com for terms and conditions. 21 years of age or older to wager. Arizona, Colorado, Washington, D.C., Iowa, Illinois, Indiana, Louisiana, Michigan, Mississippi, New Jersey, Nevada, New York, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Virginia, West Virginia, or Wyoming only. New customer offer. All promotions are subject to qualification and eligibility requirements. Rewards issued as non-withdrawable free bets or site credit. Free bets expire in 7 days from issuance. Excludes Michigan disassociated persons. Please gamble responsibly. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP in Arizona, 1-800-522-4700 in Colorado, Washington, D.C., Louisiana, Nevada, Wyoming, and Virginia. Call 1-800-270-7117 for confidential help. In Michigan, 1-800-GAMBLER. In Illinois, Indiana, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and West Virginia, or 1-800-BETS-OFF in Iowa. In New York, call 8778-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY to 467-369. In Tennessee, call the Red Line at 800-889-9789. In Mississippi, call 1-888-777-9696. Sports betting is void where prohibited. Promotional offers not available in Nevada.
All right, guys, we are back. This is the Shillin and Duffy preview show for UFC Volkov versus Rozenstruik. I am not your host. Our host is usually the great Ben Duffy. He's on vacation. I'm usually the co-host. My name is Keith Shillin. But I told the listeners of the Sherdog Radio Network that we had a heavy hitter. He is one of the hardest working men in the game. He's also one of the top gamblers. Look at that apartment going. I know his chair is like disappearing, but that's how much money this guy makes off of the fights that he has this beautiful apartment in what Miami, right?
Yeah, Miami over here.
Miami area. We're taping this early, so being that he's from Miami and I'm from the Boston area, we won't know who can brag to the other right now as the Eastern Conference. They're actually playing each other right now with my Boston Celtics up by 4. But he is the fight analyst. He is a betting expert. He is Garrett Kerman. Garrett, welcome to the Sherdog Radio Network, brother. How you doing?
Hey, man. I'm glad to be here. Thank you for having me on. I'm looking forward to this fight card.
Yeah, man, you've been on my mind for a while. Like, you're one of the guys that I said, hey, if one of us can't do it, this is the guy. I know he works super hard. This guy does all the betting things. So, me and Ben, we just watch the fights. We watch our film study. We say who's going to win. We don't give any betting advice. Ben reads the odds, but this guy does do the betting. As far as if he gives betting advice now, cool. If he doesn't, make sure you check him out. He works a whole bunch of places where he gives out betting odds. Garrett, tell him where you put out your betting odds.
You can find myself, on my Twitter handle at Fight Analyst LLC, even my Facebook page, The Fight Analyst there. I put stuff out on the All-Star Sports, Vegas odds as well. I put out some preview shows, some interviews, and some betting analysis for you guys.
Yeah, and I keep saying your betting odds. Obviously, I mean your betting picks based on the odds.
Right.
Of course, as you know, Sherdog is sponsored by BetMGM. So for this show, we're going to use all the odds from BetMGM. It is early, so we're using the early odds as we're taping this fairly early. So I went over to the UFC website, and as of right now, they only have the main event officially announced. Yeah. So guys, if the order is messed up, bear with me. This is the best order that I've found at this time. So card is subject to change. So we'll get right into it. We have 13 fights in the very first fight, if I can pull up my notes. And guys, I'm going to do it much different than Ben. I'm not going to give this big, long introduction like Ben does. That's his thing. I'll say who's fighting and the odds. That's his. as far as I'll go. So in the very first fight, we have two grapplers going at it as Tony Gravely takes on Johnny Munoz. I apologize. Where's my? I have too many tabs up. I gotta find where I put the odds. Somewhere. I apologize. This is why Ben is the money man, and this is why Ben hosts the show and not me. Where did I? All right, let me do this again. Head over to betmgm.com. Make sure if you're heading over to BetMGM, you put in the promo code SureDog if it's your first time, and you'll get a great bonus on your initial entry. I apologize as errors. All right, so Johnny Munoz heads into the fight as a plus 150 underdog. Tony Gravely heads in as a negative 140 favorite. I'll take this one first. I actually think, I don't know if this is really going to be the curtain jerker, but it is a hell of a curtain jerker. As Tony Gravely, when he was on the regional scene, he was a pretty one-dimensional fighter. But since he's joined the UFC, he has really improved in the striking. Since, I used to think he was like a lay and pray artist. Now he gets on the pocket. He throws some heat, man. He explodes off his back foot. He's really good at like closing distance, getting into that pocket where he unloads combos. One negative I have on him is he's been hurt a lot in the past. Like I think about that Nate Maness fight is where he got plunked in that fight. So you're a little worried about the damage he's taken. But he's a very, very good wrestler, former D1 wrestler. He's a good athlete. He's really good at getting into the hips and just like driving through, very just Josh Koscheck style, where he gets that next level in the hips, driving through. He makes the mistake sometimes though when he doesn't drive through the hips. Like when he's sprawled out, he has an opponent, like he'll lay underneath and get like kind of gas out a little bit, and he'll be underneath the sprawled out opponent and resting in bad positions, eating hammer fists. But when he's on top, heavy top pressure, strong ground and pound. Like I said, when he was coming up the regional scene, like I saw him in CS a lot because that's a local one for me. He would kind of take some time sitting his opponent's guard and kind of wear out the clock. But when a scramble ensues, good back takes. But my big concern with him, based on all this big movement, especially on the feet, the big power, the big slams, I've seen him gas out late. Munoz, on the other hand, he's a very basic striker, boxing style. You see him heavy on his front foot. He holds his hand, like his last fight, he was holding his hand. I don't know if you caught this. He's holding his hands really weird, where he has like his palms facing him, almost like the Notre Dame fighting Irish mascot there, which is kind of weird. Double jab. He throws a lot of double jabs, back straight up on the center line, and he threw a lot of naked leg kicks. But that's his striking. His striking needs a lot of work. His grappling is elite. I mean, you're talking about a guy, he says on the broadcast, he's been doing BJJ since he was 5 years old. He's a multi-time IBJFF world champion. I like his takedowns, nice reactionary double, heavy top pressure, incredible back takes. He's got 7 submissions on his record. So as far as prediction goes, Gravely should have a huge advantage on the feet. I can see him catching Munoz in like 1 minute of the fight. Like if he starches him right away with a big shot, would not surprise me. Plus, he is the more decorated wrestler on paper as far as, so, he was the D1 wrestler. So I think Munoz could have a hard time getting Gravely down, but all he's got to do is duck under one of those big haymakers, time it. Anybody can get taken down with a double or a single if you time it perfectly. Once on top, this guy is a wizard. I actually think he can wear down Gravely, put Gravely on his back where he's not used to, where Gravely's not the better grappler of the two. I actually think he's going to get a submission. I take Munoz by second round submission, so I'm going underdog right away. Garrett, tell me how I'm wrong.
Man, I really do like this matchup because, like you said, two great grapplers going against each other. But we've seen time and time again that sometimes equal itself out, and they stay on the feet. We look on the feet. I know, Munoz has the longer limbs. He's able to stay at distance, but I just don't think he'll be able to stay at distance in the apex, in the small octagon. Gravely's been doing very, very well at, getting inside and landing some heavy haymakers, as you said, like he did against Maness, and put him down. If he just walked away and didn't even touch him, the fight was over.
That's right.
And then we've even been talking about him losing that fight. He probably already be in the top 15 at this point, in my opinion, because he wouldn't have had to fight someone like Simon Oliveira, who wasn't on his level. And I don't think Johnny Munoz is really on his level either, in my opinion. I mean, he's fought much more than him. He's fought much higher level of competition than him. And then I feel like he's seen jiu-jitsu guys. And we've seen Munoz also fade as time goes on in his fights. And I feel like more of the same is going to happen. I don't see Gravely getting tired just grappling with Munoz, because I feel like he's going to be able to be the one that's initiating the grappling, staying heavy on top, and avoiding all the submission attempts. Maybe I could be wrong there, and he gets reversed, but I just don't see him getting finished. I mean, when was other than Brett Johns, he got finished by Patchy Mix, Manny Bermudez. I mean, those are also extreme high level jiu-jitsu practitioners very earlier in his career. I don't know. I feel like the experience of Gravely, the striking of Gravely, he gets it done and he keeps it moving and finally gets a top 15 opponent. And hopefully cracks the top 15. His line at -140, I really don't like it. I would rather play him by decision. Granted, he could knock him out, but more likely than not, he's going to get a decision win. He's going to grind him out for 15 minutes. If that's plus money, I'll take a little stab there. But I got Gravely taking this fight.
Let me ask you this before we move on. If you were setting the odds, and I know this is not what you do, but if you were setting the odds, what would you set the odds at? Because I know you said you didn't like him at -140. What would you think it'd be a bit more at?
-125, -130. Not too much. Yeah, it's not too much off. It's just I feel where I do see his side of things. He could win in a scramble. He could get his back and he could submit him. That's my only worry. But if that doesn't happen, he should skate away with this fight, in my opinion.
All right. So right away, we're already going against each other, right? The very first fight. All right. We move on to the second fight. And I should have said this from the beginning. Guys, Ben is like wicked good when it comes to pronunciation. He studies how to say it, and then usually it's like my cheat card because I listen to how he says it, then I say it the same way, so it sounds like I was smart and everything. I'm gonna be terrible in some like pronunciations. Sorry guys, no disrespect to the fighters. We have Alonzo Menifield welcoming UFC newcomer Askar Mozharov. Menifield is and I screwed up again. And Menifield is the slight, I should say, average, medium, I should say, maybe medium favorite as a -150 favorite, taking on the newcomer Askarov, who's +125. Askarov representing the Ukraine. So, newcomer Garrett, I'm going to cheat, make you go first. Tell us about this fight.
Oh, man. This is a tough one if we're kind of breaking it down. If we're looking betting wise, it's hard to really get a read on either one of these fighters. Menifield, he came out flat against William Knight. He just didn't look like himself. You know what he's capable of. He's got knockout power. He can knock out anybody. But if you get him out of that first round and you kind of make him work, we see, the end of the light there. We see that, he could possibly not win a decision. Losing a decision to William Knight is pretty damn bad. That is pretty damn bad. And then you have Mozharov, I guess we want to say. There's some unknowns about him. He's got power. This man hasn't fought in MMA in 2 years. He just last one he fought was a bare knuckle boxing match in 2021. So you're going in knowing this guy's kind of just fighting just to fight. So, but the thing is he's been chopping at the bit to get into the UFC. So he's had multiple canceled fights. So he's already been a prospect. So they've had their eye on him because he, goes in there and finishes fights. He's got 32 fights under his belt already, which is three times as many as Menifield. If I'm leaning towards anyway, I'd probably go with the debut fighter just because, he's got the finishing ability. He's got the experience. He just fought at heavyweight, so he's going to have the size advantage. And I think one of these guys is going out probably in the first round.
Yeah.
Also would love to take the under 1.5 here.
Yeah, absolutely. And as I mentioned, these bets are from their early lines on BetMGM. So make sure when you're watching this, check it out. The lines could be much different, especially when guys listen to like Garrett and he gives advice. Garrett's one of these guys. He'll make the line move based on his advice and all the people that follow his bets. Yeah, this is a tough one. A lot of unknowns. Menifield is a guy that I've never been that high on. He's a good athlete. He's pretty light on his feet. He has a very high God boxing style. He likes to play this like outside point fighting game, and he can have like a low output, single shots, can be too impatient, and then, which is really surprising that he plays an outside kickboxing game, considering he's one of the shorter guys in the weight class, and he showed he struggled with lengthier guys, like he struggled with OSP with his length, but then he also has this Yoel Romero style to him where he suddenly explodes, and in that little bit of spurt, he throws everything but the kitchen sink. And, he gets in the pocket and he throws combos and he throws everything hard. You mentioned he has big power. I mean, me and Ben have talked to us in the past. You look at the guy is like ripped to shreds. I mean, he looks like a freaking superhero. Big power. Actually, like the best part of his game, I actually like his kicks. Light kicks. He has a quick high kick. But as far as the grappling, we haven't seen much in the grappling. You mentioned it about gassing out in the past. You said he went to a decision where he really slowed down against William Knight. Remember, Devin Clark was another fight that he really, really gassed out. I will say his gas tank's a little bit better than we think because he goes so hard. He has shown, like in back-to-back fights, to go the distance. And one he won. I think it was the Ed Herman fight. He did win the decision. But overall, the deeper the fight goes, I do think his chances go down. I like that you mentioned the experience from Mozharov. He's 27 years old. It is like 30-ish fights. You mentioned his huge power. He's got 13 knockouts. You mentioned the bare knuckle boxing. I think the bare knuckle boxing fight was like 8 seconds long. He's, from what I've seen of him, very aggressive striker, attacks with hard combos. I love his kicks, super like dexterity in his hips. Go down, like he'll throw a kick to the legs and then go right up high with one to the head, which the higher the weight class you go, will let you see stuff like that. Decent wrestler from what I've seen. He likes to like get inside body locks. He's got 6 subs. Though the one like red flag when he's grappling is he has 4 submission losses, which I don't like. Though I don't know if Menifield's the guy who's going to challenge him that. I've never been that high in Menifield. I can't see how he wins this fight. I really think, from what I've seen from Mozharov, I think he's better than him everywhere. Due to the experience, and I don't think the step up in promotion will rattle Mozharov too much. I mean, that's the way you do it if you come in the UFC, get as much experience under your belt. I think he comes out like a bat out of hell. I don't think he's going to be scared of Menifield's power, and I think he's going to starch him. So I like your play on under 1.5. I'm going to go with the UFC newcomer by first round TKO.
I like that. And mind you, you can even possibly bet Mozharov by TKO in round 1. That's probably going to be, I would guess, plus 600 or better.
Yeah, it's really early. Let me see if I can see what the odds are. Like I don't normally do get that into the betting. Let's see.
I doubt we're gonna get
right now. Yeah, it's too far. We're too far away to get the prop bets yet. Prop bet style, but you can. I mean, I'm going with the betting on the underdog at plus 125. We'll see if that line changes.
I mean, it's starting to go down as I've seen so far, so it might even come close to a pick'em by fight time.
Yeah, I think so too. Especially when people realize, like, oh yeah, Alonzo Menifield just lost to William Knight.
By decision.
Yeah.
By decision.
All right, guys, we move on. One of the fights, again, guys, I apologize if I mess up the order of these bouts. They could be all over the place. One of the fights that I'm really looking forward to is the next fight we have up. We have Alex De Silva take on Joe Solecki. Joe Solecki's a minus 160 favorite. The comeback on Alex De Silva is plus 140. Before we get into your pick, Garrett, are you excited for this fight as much as I am? Because I really like this fight.
Oh yeah, because I've actually been wondering where Alex De Silva has been at. I mean, he's an action fighter. He comes to bang on the feet, and he's a good grappler on the mat. And actually, he's a fun fighter. And you know where you get from Solecki. he's a grinder. He's just one that's always going to be in there in every one of these fights. So I'm definitely looking forward to this one.
All right, tell me who you got.
I'm actually quite confident in Joe Solecki in this fight. I think this is a get right fight for him. I know lost his last fight, but it was a super close fight. And going to Silva, he hasn't fought in a bit, and I know that he gets out grappled. And I don't think Solecki is going to have much of a problem out grappling De Silva. De Silva is sneaky in his transitions. He's good at scrambles on the mat. He's got some sneaky submissions, but Solecki, I think, is too good on top. He should be able to grind him out. And I don't see Silva really catching him with anything on the mat because he's been, working tirelessly on his grappling. He's been doing a bunch of jiu-jitsu competitions and that. So I think he's going to be well versed on the mat. And Silva's going to be, he's going to be dangerous on the feet. But the thing is, Solecki's the bigger fighter. Silva is not that big for 155. He's only 5'8", and Solecki's a little bit taller, and I definitely think he's a lot stockier. So we'll see what happens, but I got Solecki going in there, taking him down, rinse and repeat, controlling him, maybe getting the submission win. Because, he did get bulldog choked by Yaroslav. I think that's his name, which is not a good thing when you're going against a guy like Solecki. So, yeah.
Do you think the odds should be wider?
I do. It was when I was able to take a bet on Solecki, because I already bet on him earlier, I think today or yesterday. I took him at minus 165. I don't think it's going to get any lower than that.
Yeah, that's what we have right now.
I think it's going to get higher. It should get higher by fight time. I was wondering where it's kind of got to peak. I feel like it's going to peak around here, minus 160, minus 165. And then it's going to go back up where I do think it should be. I personally think it should be like minus 225, minus 230.
Yeah, I just want to make sure we were on the same page when you say higher. Yes, I mean the favorite is
right.
Was higher. Okay.
Right.
See, to me, I'm having a much harder time picking this fight than you are. I'm really high on both guys. I think both guys are really well rounded. Obviously, Solecki's a guy, he's been fighting a lot more active, as you mentioned. I think he's a well-rounded fighter. You really focused on his grappling. I think he's a good boxer too. He's composed. I like his output on the feet, high output. He can fight out of both stances. He's pretty technically sound. Uses a lot of feints. He throws everything straight down the pipe. Attacks with combos. The one thing I don't like is he tends to lack power. He's not like a big cracker. Though I like that when he's in the opposite stance, or if he's in the southpaw stance and his opponent is orthodox, he's wise enough to know that the inside kick to the stomach is going to be wide open. And you mentioned his grappling, good entries, good at winning scrambles. He's one of these guys though, he won't defend a takedown. Like he doesn't mind getting taken down himself. As he's one of these guys we talked earlier about Johnny Munoz training BJJ since he was 5. I think Solecki said he's been training BJJ since he's 6. 8 submissions, has really great flexibility, subs off his back. The one thing that I was a little concerning is his fight against Jared Gordon, where he grappled so much and actually kind of gassed himself out. Hopefully he's fixed that. De Silva, I think De Silva's really good. Like I'm much higher on him than it seems like you are. I go back to his fight with Brad Riddell, which obviously was his last fight. That was a battle, and listeners know how high I am on Brad Riddell. He's 26 years old now. He's got lots of experience. He's got, I think, 24 total fights. He's an aggressive Muay Thai striker, tight boxing, tight combinations, throws a lot of combinations, teep kicks up the middle, which he might not want to do against Solecki, but and I'm higher on his overall wrestling than you are. I think he sets up his takedowns pretty well. He got some takedowns on Brad Riddell. Good entries, heavy top pressure. He has 7 subs himself. He's hard to take down. When he was taken down, he's pretty good to get back up. But the other thing, the reason why he probably lost to Liddell is he also slowed down. So you had 2 guys who slowed down late. But in fairness to De Silva, that fight against Brad Riddell was an absolute war. So as far as prediction goes, like you're saying the line should be wider. And guys, listen to Garrett. He's definitely way more knowledgeable when it comes to betting odds and that, like me and Ben, this is not a betting show, but I think it's super cool to get a guy who does the betting, because I know so many guys that listen to the show are really into putting money. I'm the opposite, is though I think the line should be closer. And in fact, I'm going with the dog again. I'm leaning to Silva. Solecki is a really, really solid, but what I saw De Silva do to Riddell was so impressive to me. I think he's too fast for Solecki on the feet. I think he lands the better shots on the feet. He's going to have to avoid Solecki's takedown attempts. And of course, that's much easier said than done. Like, I think you're dead on. The best avenue for victory for Solecki is if he gets him down and he's the heavy top pressure. Like, De Silva's going to not be able to play jiu-jitsu. Like, if he gets taken down, he's going to have to work his way back up, make Solecki work for those takedown attempts. If he starts playing, I'm a jiu-jitsu black belt, trying to throw up submissions off his back, he's gonna be a rough night. But on the feet, I really like De Silva. So I'm going the underdog again, and I'm taking De Silva by decision.
That's gonna be a good one. I'm looking forward to it. You know, I'm banking on Solecki just getting the takedowns, and I just feel he'll be able to be successful taking him down. Yeah. And I don't think De Silva is going to have an easier time than Jerry Gordon did. Jerry Gordon had some troubles getting up.
Oh, absolutely.
And
Jerry Gordon is huge for the weight class.
Exactly. So, and I think De Silva is actually kind of small for the weight class. I think he should be fighting at 145. So we'll see what happens, but I think it's going to be a bang. I think that's one of the better fights on the card. Yeah.
So for those who are keeping track at home, that's 3 fights. I'll take it 3 underdogs. As of the early odds, like as you mentioned, some of those are close. They could change. We move on to a fight that I don't know if it's going to have a lot of buzz as the last one I just talked about. We have Niklas Stolze taking on Benoit Saint Denis. I apologize to my 7th grade French teacher. Actually, my 9th grade French teacher, Mrs. Collardi, who, if you're a long-time listener of the Sherdog Radio Network Shill and Duffy Show, I told you in the past how much I enjoyed Mrs. Collardi for different reasons. But yeah, I apologize to Mrs. Collardi if I pronounce Benoit Saint Denis wrong. Stolze, who represents Germany, is the underdog here, plus 130, with the Frenchman Saint Denis a negative 155 favorite. I'm going to kick this. Actually, you went first last time, so I'm not going to make you go twice first. So I'll go first this time. Stolze, I know, not a good run so far in the UFC. He's a long and lengthy striker, pretty good movement. I'd say he's a serviceable boxer. He's more of a kickboxer. He uses those long legs. I like his step in knees, a lot of kicks to the legs, kicks to the body. But I'm worried about his chin. He stands up pretty tall. He was blasted in his last fight. He backs straight up on the center line. Go back to the fight against Ramazan Emeev. Like, Emeev was getting to the clinch because just the pressure, and Stolze was just backing straight up. He can sneak in a takedown. He has 5 submissions, so you like that. But weak takedown defense. What I do like, though, when he's on his back, he uses submission attempts, not just to get submission, but to actually create some space to get back up. And he has a pretty good get-up game, so I do like that about him. Move over to Saint Denis, southpaw. I'd say he's a plus athlete, pretty fast, really good kicks. But he very similar to Stolze. He keeps his chin high. Leaves him open to be hit. He lacks head movement. Go back to his last fight against Alessio Solecki dos Santos. He showed that he's like the toughest son of a bitch alive, because dos Santos hit him with everything. The fight should have been stopped about 12 times. As far as the grappling go, you see this guy is ripped. He's a very physically strong guy. He has a judo background, like his body lock game, some really good hip control. He actually threw Solecki in their fight. Good back takes. He's got 7 submissions, wins on his record. One thing I don't like, though, is that he'll jump to a submission instead of defending a takedown. That's very I've talked about this in the past. Like, it's a very judo thing, where if you understand judo, you don't get points for takedowns that you don't initiate. It's not like wrestling, where if you go for a submission in judo, you only have a couple seconds and they stand you back to feet. So that's why you see so many judo artists, very like Ronda Rousey. She wouldn't control the position. She would go like jump right to an armbar. It's just kind of instinct. And that's kind of what you get with Saint Denis. I like Saint Denis. Again, how much I like Saint Denis. I picked him to beat Solecki. So that was one of my worst picks in history. That said, dude, I'm going to double down on the Frenchman again. I say he lands some takedowns on Stolze. I say he outworks him from the top position until he finds a submission. I say he gets a late submission. Garrett, we've already disagreed a couple times. Do we disagree again?
No, I go with Saint Denis as well. I think like everything you said was just spot on. He's a plus athlete. I think he's got more to his game than Stolze, whatever you want to call him. I think he could get it done. Get in on the inside, take him down. I mean, we've seen him get taken down before, and I think he's got, like you said, 7 submissions. So he's a threat on the mat. He's always looking and hunting for the submission and trying to get the finish. And I feel like he could get it done here. I mean, losing to Jared Gooden, not really a good sign there.
No, I agree.
He's lost.
He made Gooden look real good too.
Yeah, a minute in, that was it. That's all she wrote. That's all it took. 68 seconds. Not good. And he's 0-2. Might go 0-3 and then gets the cut. And Saint Denis, we really haven't seen too much of him. He was just a punching bag against a really good fighter. I mean, like the level of competition from Zaleski to Stolze is
that's a good point.
Yeah, so
huge step down.
It's just a massive step down in competition. I think he looks good in this fight, and he possibly gets the finish and shows why he was called up on short notice as it is.
Yeah. All right, so we're in agreement with that. So I think we've agreed twice, we disagreed twice, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. So we move on again, guys. I apologize if the order is wrong, but we have 2 guys coming from different avenues. Making his UFC debut, Dana White's Contender Series alumni, Lucas Almeida, who actually lost his Contender Series matchup, takes on Ultimate Fighter season winner Mike Trizano. Almeida is Trizano is a very hefty favorite. He's -225 favorite. The newcomer Almeida plus 190. Up to this last season, I did a lot of research on the Contender Series. Things changed in schedule, so I didn't dig into it this past season as much as I did the other ones. But I know you're a guy who really follows the Contender Series. I know you give out betting advice on the Contender Series. Tell us who you got in this fight between Lucas Almeida and Mike Trizano.
Give me the underdog and Lucas Almeida in this fight. I love to fade Mike Trizano as an underdog all day, every day, especially at what are we at, plus 190, plus 200.
Yeah.
Almeida is a sick kickboxer.
Let me stop you real quick. Just I just want a general I want to pick your brain generally when it comes to fights. Give the listeners, when we have a guy who's a favorite like Trizano at -225, and he's the guy people know, right, and the underdog Almeida is plus 180. Does the sharps like you who understand that this guy shouldn't be that big of underdog, does that change a line, or does the casuals come in and go, oh, I know Mike Trizano, and then he becomes a better, so basically what I'm saying is, should the guys jump on him now, or it would be better off wait, and he might even become a bigger underdog? Or is that an unfair question?
No, it really depends where the line is moving right now. So if I take a look right now, money is still pouring in on Trizano. So I technically would wait on Almeida at least a little bit until you see that money start coming in on Almeida. Once you see some money coming in on Almeida, that's where you see the lines kind of plateaued, and it might go back in the other direction. So
if he gets up to plus 225, and then the next day he drops down to plus 215, jump on it.
Yeah, pretty much. That's when I would kind of hit it. Yeah.
Okay, so continue with your assessment. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No worries. But as far as this fight goes, man, I really do like Almeida. I even picked him as an underdog against Zellhuber. He looked great in that first round. He was bringing it to him. He was messing him up. I think he even broke his nose or something like that. He messed him up pretty bad. Unfortunately, he gassed out after that. And, it happens. It's the Contender Series. They're going in there. They're looking for the kill because that's how you get signed. And, there's a lot of volatility when betting on the Contender Series because guys are going for broke and then they gas themselves out. It happens all the time.
Absolutely.
But in this fight,
fantastic that first round.
Yeah, he was a killer. He threw about 100 strikes just in that first round. So this guy is going to come in there. He looks like he's got that shooto box type of Muay Thai style of striking going on. And Trizano is bad against pressure. We know that. And in the apex, that pressure is going to be immensely immensified because of the smaller proximity. I feel Trizano is going to have to land some takedowns and wear this guy out, or he's going to batter him into oblivion early and often into this fight, and I think he gets the TKO win.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned the apex because I wasn't thinking this. You mentioned it. So Almeida has, come into the UFC off the Contender Series. He's already fought in the apex. So like fighting a second time, it's not the same as it was years in the past where guys making their debuts and you're in Chicago and there's this sold out arena and people are screaming. He's been in this cage. He understands how the weigh-ins go, how I enter through this door and I see this guy's face and so I think that does change a little bit of the jitters. Now I've never really been one of these guys who get too much into the jitters. I think talent always rises. Trizano, he's a minus athlete. He's a guy that like off of tough, like I've never seen like huge improvements from him. Like I feel like he's the same guy as he's always really been. He's a long and lengthy fighter. He makes a mistake in keeping his hands low. He kind of throws from those weird angles, like a lot of up jabs. He does throw straight punches down the pipe. He's got those long legs, which kind of like leave him open to a lot of leg kicks. Just huge targets. You mentioned the takedowns. The clinch is like where he's the strongest, I think, because he'll grind. He'll kind of use that size advantage to kind of wear on his opponents in the clinch. I always use this guy because he's that long grinding clinch guy, but I always mention like Tim Means style. Like he has that like Tim Means frame where get inside there. Actually, good example based on recent in people's mind. Very Holly Holm. Like Holly Holm has that kind of obviously I'm talking different female and a male, but like taller for the weight class. Actually uses their size in the clinch. But you mentioned Trizano wanting to get the fight to the ground. He's not a great wrestler, but like he somehow finds a way to get the fight to the ground. Right. Does that make sense? Yeah. Like, he's good at winning scrambles, but he has weak takedown defense. You put him on his back, he struggles to get back up. He's a bit of a submission threat, but he's not the submission threat like the commentating team's going to make him sound like. They're going to make him sound like he's Johnny Munoz and winning BJJ tournaments. And Almeida, I actually think he's a minus athlete, but he's big for the weight class. Not like long and lengthy, but he's big frame. Well, he's actually pretty long too, but he's a counter striker, very slip and rip style, basic fundamental boxer, but fights, you mentioned pressure, fights with a lot of pressure, throws a lot of combos, a lot of like L step in away, a lot of power. I like his Muay Thai clinch. He's an okay wrestler. I'd say like his wrestling is probably similar to Trizano's, where he can get takedowns, but he's not a strong NCAA wrestling style. He does have 4 submissions on his record, but he has weaker takedown defense. As far as my prediction, no confidence in this fight at all. But this is the 5th fight. I did have 3 underdog picks in a row. I did break my streak where I took a favorite, so I'm not going the entire card going underdogs. But I'm going to do it again, man. We're both on the same underdog. I kind of feel it's funny. We both feel the same way about Trizano, like never Mike Trizano. Yeah,
never.
It's I think of like fantasy. I remember ESPN Matthew Berry from Fantasy Sports used to always say never James White. It's like that's our never Mike Trizano. I really like what I saw about Almeida on the feet. I'm really worried what you mentioned about the takedowns, the clinch. I feel this fight, I feel similar in a different sense, but then like the Solecki fight, like with De Silva. But I think De Silva is much faster. I think Almeida is much faster. I think the pressure of those guys will be good. You just got to watch the takedowns. I could actually see Almeida getting takedowns of Trizano. I just think that Trizano's best avenue of victory is being on top, and that's what really the only avenue of victory for him, or just grinding against the fence. But we're in agreement. I say Almeida, and I think Almeida's going to run away with it. I'm going to take Almeida by decision.
I like it. And that line is completely off. I mean, I feel like I don't know where they're basing that line off of it, especially considering where Trizano is coming off a loss, and a pretty lopsided loss against another striker in Dawadu. So now he's going against another legit striker in Almeida. And yeah, he's a big favorite. I don't believe it.
I think sometimes Almeida, based on the Contender Series loss, if you change that loss to a win, me and Ben have talked about this in the past. Like the type of hype around a guy who has like a single loss versus someone who has like no losses. If Almeida fought, he was 8-0, had no losses, fought on a regional scene but didn't beat anybody, have recognition, didn't even fight on a good regional scene, this line would be closer, just being undefeated. There's just something about and I'm not going to get too sidetracked, but me and Ben have talked about this many times, and I know you're going to agree with this. Look at the way Khabib Nurmagomedov is viewed compared to Alex Volkanovski, who has one loss early in his career, like 3 weight classes above his natural weight class now. Just how they're perceived.
That's true. And Volkanovski has been more, to me, has been more dominant because of the resume that he's faced.
Yeah, I say I wouldn't say he's been more dominant. Well, he's been more dominant, but I think the names on the resume, resume is more impressive.
Right. Yes. Yeah. That's the
same
better.
Like Usman,
that's a better way of saying it.
Same with Usman. Usman has one loss in his career that it doesn't have the same. It's just something about it. So if Almeida came in this undefeated, if Almeida came in this fight undefeated, the line might be the other direction. He might be the -225 favorite.
It's definitely possible.
Yeah, I might be exaggerating a little bit, but.
Well, I mean, considering I think he was beating Zellhuber bad enough that he could have gotten that win. And if he gotten that win and he was 14-0, he would have been signed, and 2, he probably would have gotten a good fight already because he's a very action fighter,
Yeah, absolutely. That's exactly that's a lot of my point. All right, moving on. We have a female bout. A fight that I think should be much higher up the card, as I really like both fighters. We have Erin Blanchfield taking on JJ Aldrich. Erin Blanchfield enters this contest as the biggest betting favorite on the card. She is -600, while JJ Aldrich is a +425 underdog. Anybody who's ever listened to me break down Erin Blanchfield, they know I've been pumping Erin Blanchfield for years. She was on my Past, Present, and Future show that I used to do when I used to really preview prospects. She's 8-1. She should be 9-0. I'm going to say it. I promise you guys, until she loses again, I'm going to continue to say this every time. I will say this: if she goes undefeated, the rest of her career, I'll be saying this. She beat Tracy Cortez. I don't give a shit what anybody says. Watch that fight. She beat Tracy Cortez. As far as in the UFC, she's undefeated. And that's not a knock at Tracy Cortez, who's obviously doing extremely well for herself. But back to Blanchfield, she's really improving on her striking from what I've seen. Great output. She marches down her opponents with pressure. She just swarms with like this mean, like. She's super sweet girl, but then when she starts fighting, she has this like mean psychopath-ness in her. I mentioned Aspen Ladd before, being like angry ex-girlfriend. Erin Blanchfield has a little bit of that going too. She has a very slip and rip style. She's at her age. She's so young. I think she's 23. She's just starting to come into her power. So we can continue to see her landing more power shots and hurting fighters more as she moves on. She throws a bunch of leg kicks. She doesn't check leg kicks. That's one issue. But we've seen her throw a high kick in Invicta, knockout Victoria Leonardo with a beautiful high kick. As far as her grappling goes, second to none. Fast entries. She loves her snatch single. She also like body locks. Go back to like her last fight against Miranda Maverick. She turned Miranda Maverick into a takedown dummy. Smothering top control. Some of the best ground and pound in the game. She's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. She's an EBI world champion. She's a submission specialist, can get submissions from any position. Now, Erin Blanchfield was a girl that came into the UFC with a lot of hype and lived up to it. JJ Aldrich, to me, is like the complete opposite, where she's kind of been this unsung fighter who just keeps getting some good wins, kind of been underrated for a long time. She's a southpaw, composed boxer, pretty fast hands, good counter striking, good footwork, very light on her feet. She does really good to circle away from her opponent's attack while also pulling her opponent into her punches, something that Joanna Jędrzejczyk really did in her prime. Her straight left is the best punch. She doesn't go to the body enough. I think that's something that she really needs to do. She also lacks power. She's a point fighter. She's not she's not going to really sting you. But as far as grappling goes, she was overpowered by Sabina Mazo and got battered in the clinch a little bit for my liking, and she's a little undersized, but she's a decent, like when she's looking to wrestle, she's a decent offensive wrestler, decent defensive wrestler. She showed how smart she was against Courtney Casey I actually think she's a better striker than Courtney Casey, but anybody who's seen Courtney Casey knows she's a top wrestler, so JJ Aldrich says, why risk it? I'll just turn into a wrestling match. But then she also showed how strong her defensive wrestling is in the Nemopoulos fight. So as far as prediction goes, I really think Aldrich is an underrated fighter, but I think Blanchfield is one of the best fighters in the division. I see her using her insane pressure to back up Aldrich until she closes the distance, gets her to the ground, batters her with ground and pound, and eventually a submission presents itself. Blanchfield gets it. I say Blanchfield gets a submission in the second round. Garrett, I know you're a man. I know you're a man that will take a bet on a huge underdog. Tell us why JJ Aldrich is going to win.
She's not, though. I can't do it. This is not the big underdog. I can't do it.
I'll set you up, man.
I couldn't. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, man. I just can't. JJ Aldrich is not a fighter that I've always wanted to bet on. I mean, I bet against her on Jillian Robertson. That backfired. But yeah,
I'm sorry. I said Demopoulos. I think I meant Jillian Robertson.
I mean, she defended takedowns in both those fights. So I mean, she looked really good regardless. Blanchfield is on another level. I mean, I've been watching her on the regional scene since she was like at least 4-0. So I, like you, knew she was this big hot prospect coming in. She was killing it, and she still is. And I just don't see what JJ Aldrich is really going to do to deter Blanchfield, just doing what she does best. Bringing the pace, bringing the pressure, coming forward, getting her face, taking her down, rinse and repeat, and just beating her everywhere. I mean, this girl is literally one of the best in the division, like point blank. I don't see anyone other than really Valentina that's giving her much problems in the top 15. I really don't. And JJ Aldrich is just going to be another one on her list that she's going to come in, she's going to take out. But at -5 something, I can't bet it, obviously.
-6 something.
-6 something, can't bet it.
I'll give you. I dropped down the. I'll give you the exact right as of right now. Of course, this could change. I'm sorry, I don't know where I put the odds. I got too many tabs up. I had one of my tabs trying to watch my Celtics destroy your Heat.
Oh my God.
Yeah. I don't know. It was I can't find it now. It was -600, I think.
Yeah, crazy. I mean, granted, these are the type of lines sometimes, you can bet the opposite way and make some money, and I get it. And that's why you don't bet on a -600 favorite. But these are the fights that you have to look into the prop bets, see what you're going to get. Maybe there's a little plus money on the inside the distance prop. Maybe there'll be some plus money on under 2.5 rounds. That's where you start playing the prop game on these big favorites. They're going to win, but how are they going to win? When are they going to win? And then you go from there, see if there's anything that kind of stands out to you. I'm sure inside the distance will get you plus money because I'm sure the decision prop will be still a favorite line because majority of her wins are by decision. So, yeah.
There you have it. I tried baiting him in, but he didn't take it. So we're both, me and Garrett are both very huge on Erin Blanchfield, and we say that she continues her rise up the UFC rankings. We're going to roll on. Before you do not adjust your cameras. We did not have a wardrobe change in between fights. We actually taped this over 2 days, so that's why I'm wearing a different shirt. I think Garrett's wearing a different
I tried to keep it in the same shirt.
You did? Okay. I was like, okay, so he put the same shirt back on.
This is clean, guys. I mean, I put it on just for the show, just letting you know.
So what happened is Garrett needed a break after my Celtics smoked his team. He needed a break. This trash talk isn't gonna age too well, because by the time this comes out, we'll know who won the series. So I might have some, hey, idiot, your team lost. Lost the series. All right, so we move on. We got a fight that just got added. And again, guys, real quick, if the order's messed up, we're taping this really early. There's no order on the UFC website, so bear with me. A fight that just got added, Damian Jackson taking on UFC newcomer Daniel Argueta. Damian Jackson is a very sizable favorite. He's negative 400 right now on BetMGM. The newcomer Argueta is a plus 310 underdog. Garrett, you're the betting man. Do you like Argueta getting plus 310 odds?
Absolutely not. Unfortunately, I'm a big fan of Argueta. I've watched him on the Ultimate Fighter the season before this last one, and he looked great. I mean, I know he lost to the eventual winner, but he still looked good, and he's been absolutely killing it in LFA. He's absolutely dominant. But unfortunately, this is too big of a step up in competition, as well as stepping up on short notice, up a weight class against a guy that's twice his size. I mean, he's pretty short. He's pretty short as it is. He's stocky, great wrestler, good heavy hands. But the thing is, Damon Jackson's a dog. That dude can fight. He can take a punch, and he can grapple with the best. He's been out grappling all of his opponents. And he was going against another grappler in Derek Minner. So he was getting ready to go in against a grappler. So I don't think this is going to be any difference here. I think the size advantage is going to be massive. The experience edge is going to be massive. But, Argueta is a great signing, and I can't wait to see what he does in the 135-pound division, which is his actual division, where I think he's going to make, leaps and bounds a difference in that division versus 145. But he needed to get in somehow, and this was his way in. A short notice fight against a really tough competitor, up a weight class. He did what he had to do. He might take an L, but at the end of the day, he's going to go back to 135, and he's going to make some noise.
Let me ask you before I give my prediction. You mentioned Derek Minner was the matchup. Who are you leaning? I mean, that fight just got canceled. Did you look at that fight at all?
Yeah, no, I had Damon Jackson in that fight as well. Okay. I think his grappling was better. Minner, leaves his neck out there. He tends to fade as well as fight goes on, and we know Damon Jackson has got great cardio and he can grapple for days against anybody. And I eventually thought he was going to get the submission.
Do you think this matchup is tougher? Or is it easier?
I think it's easier. He's going to be a lot smaller. And Argueta is going to – he does gas as well. And I just think the pace is going to be too much for him, too much grappling. And I eventually think he's probably going to get a submission or just TKO from top control, top mount, and just hammering him away. I think Damon Jackson's going to go in there and dominate this fight. Yeah.
You keep talking about the size difference. I mean, besides moving up a weight class, you're going against a guy who's big for the weight class in Damian Jackson. He's long and lengthy. He's a guy that can fight all the way out or all the way in. Does really well to kind of keep his range with those long distance striking. He throws really hard when he gets in the pocket. He makes the mistake of, though he throws a lot of kick, and kick is such a part of his game, he leaves himself to be countered because he throws naked leg kicks and really set him up, kind of keeps his chin in the air. He's been checked like that in the past, but he's, as you mentioned, his grappling, that's what's been his money lately. He's a former NCAA wrestler. He has really good reactionary double. Go back to the Charles Oliveira fight. He got 6 takedowns against Charles Oliveira. He got 2 big takedowns against Kamala Kirk in his last fight. Really underrated, just grappling altogether, heavy top pressure, good back takes. You see him in the back position a lot. Defensive wrestling, he got taken down by Mirsad Bektic 7 times, but Bektic is a really good. Bektic is a really good fighter. And Jackson makes the mistake of jumping to a guillotine to try to defend. So he actually makes it a little easier to take him down. But that's because he has a really good guillotine game. Yeah. He can get you. He's really just a really good slick grappler. He can get submissions from all over. And the best thing about him, and I say this last on part of it, is his cardio. He fights at an insane pace, nonstop. It was his cardio that beat a guy like Bektic on 3 days' notice. You mentioned Argueta, very undersized, moving up to one. I mean, like he's not a big 135 pounder, so like going up to 145 and facing a much bigger guy is tough. He's a southpaw. He's very aggressive though on the feet. He's a pocket boxer. Makes a lot of defensive mistakes though. He keeps his hands really low. Very hittable. He lacks head movement. One of these guys like willing to eat a punch to land a punch. Good wrestler there. You mentioned good entries. Always like fun in scrambles. Kind of struggles if you put him on his back. You saw that in his last fight. But he's as you mentioned, he's an LFA champion. His last fight was a fantastic fight, by the way. I can't remember the Brazilian's name that he beat, but he can go hard. He wasn't fading in a 25-minute fight, so 15 minutes. The short notice on the cardio side doesn't really worry me in this fight. But the reason why I'm taking Damon Jackson, I've been a Damon Jackson's believer. Like he isn't a future contender or anything like that, but he's just an underrated fighter. Like I think his pace is really good, especially for a guy who's taken on days' notice. But the big thing for me too is just the size. He's just as good as a wrestler. Give me Jackson to dominate the grappling. I get this so freaking tough that I think he might make it the distance. But there's a reason why Jackson's a negative 400 favorite. Give me Jackson by decision.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's gonna look really good.
All right, we move on. And guys, I have to apologize. Ben would have studied these names and had the pronunciation perfect. So I apologize ahead of time when I butcher these pronunciations. We have Andreas Michailidis taking on Rinat Fakhretdinov. Again, I apologize to both fighters. Michailidis is a plus 225 underdog, where Rinat is a sizable favorite at negative 280 right now in his UFC debut. So a lot of buzz about the newcomer. And I think some of that has to do with Michailidis. Michailidis is a guy who fights out MMA Masters. Nothing really jumps out when I've watched this guy fight. He's a weaker athlete, like minus athlete. He's slow, very lumbering, plodding kind of guy. He does hit hard. I'll give him that. He has a lot of kicks, a lot of calf kicks. He's a pretty good grappler. But his wrestling game isn't there. Like he looks like to me like a guy who he's good at jiu-jitsu, but he does a lot of like the negatives that come with the jiu-jitsu gym where they don't train wrestling. They just like they start on their knees, they both fist bump and they start grappling. He'll look for takedowns, but his takedowns are a little ugly. He doesn't really set him up much. He has weak takedown defense. And I'm also worried about his chin. I mean, he's been knocked out in all his past fights in his. I'm not sorry. Let me rephrase that. All his losses, not all his fights. He's not a 0 for 20 and 20 knockouts. But and he's also I've seen him slow down and gas out. Now, I'm gonna call him Rinat. I think that's a little easier. I haven't seen too much of him. What I've seen, 30 years old. He's a brawler. He throws hard power hooks. A lot of looping, very like Fedor, like prime Fedor Emelianenko, and where he's like looping punches. And when I say prime, I'm talking about the technique, not the level of skill and how far I think he's going to go. Big power. He's got 11 knockouts. His check left hook is the best strike that I've seen. Goes down to the body. Can wrestle. He does have 5 submission wins. More of a like ground and pounds him, and then kind of gets a submission when it's open. Again, like when you have 14 fights, you got to sacrifice some tape study time. That's actually one of the ones I did. It has nothing to do with the newcomer Rinat. It had more to do with Michailidis. I kind of feel like I know that this guy's not a UFC level fighter. So I'm going to say Rinat lands one of these big power shots right in the beginning. I'm going to say he has a dazzling debut with a first-round knockout. Who do you got there, my man?
Yeah, I kind of agree with that as well. I mean, it's always a good idea to fade Michailidis as, even as a big underdog. The man's not UFC level. He gets hit a ton. He fades. Doesn't have good grappling. So I really don't know what he's doing in there, to be honest. But, I feel like this is a stepping stone for the newcomer to come in and really showcase his skills. 20-2. He's a finisher. Majority of his wins come in the first round. So he's coming in there. He's getting it done. He's getting it done early. He faced, a ex-UFC fighter, Eric Spicely, in his last fight. Mind you, starts from early. I think it was only a minute long. So, he's fighting at least decent competition outside of the UFC. He's got some hype coming in. he's a finisher, and I like that going against Michailidis, who's just like he's hittable, like you said, and he can get cracked. I feel like this fight's going to end early, probably in the first round, like you said. I like the under 1.5 rounds whenever that does come out as a prop. And I like Rinat by KO in the first round. I don't expect this fight to go very long. Those are the only ways I would kind of probably bet this fight, because at minus 300, I'm not taking a newcomer at minus 300.
Yeah, I should have mentioned this too, that Michailidis represents Greece and Rinat represents Russia. If you're ever in a bind and you have a fighter from Greece and a fighter from Russia and you don't know anything about him, it's probably a safe bet to go with the Russian.
Yep, absolutely, 100%.
Not always, obviously, but generally speaking. Let's move on. We move on to a fight that I'm really excited about. This fight, more based on one fighter. You have Osbourne taking on Zarrukh Adashev, and I should know that guy's name because he's fought in the UFC a couple times. I apologize for butchering his name. Garrett, tell me who you like in this fight.
Oh, I like Osbourne here. It's kind of hard not to like him in this matchup because it's going to be a striking affair. He's the longer guy. He's the faster guy. He's the one that's going to throw more volume. Zarrukh Adashev, he's a great kickboxer, but he's pretty small for the division. Even at flyweight, he's still pretty small. He doesn't throw a lot of volume, so he's kind of more of a 1-2 kind of guy, waiting to counter. And I think that's where his downfall is going to be, because he's going to be waiting to counter, and while he's waiting to counter, he's going to get hit with a bunch of different combinations. I think Osbourne is going to look good here, and he's going to get it done. He can even mix in some grappling. He's also the bigger guy, I just think this is going to be a good fight for him. And Zarrukh Adashev, he's only 4-3 in his MMA career.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure why. One, he's in the UFC. He only came in at 3-0, I think, or something like that. Or 3-1, and he just hasn't looked good. And I think, didn't he face who did he face? That's a really good striker, kind of like Osbourne in terms of what's his name? Sumadarji, right?
Yeah,
another flashy type of striker that's very rangy, very long, and I feel like he had a ton of problems getting in on the reach, and being able to time the movement. I think he's gonna have a lot of problems here against Osbourne, and I'm pretty confident in getting it done here.
Yeah, and worse, Tyson Nam knocked him out in 31 seconds in the debut. I don't think I read the odds. I apologize. Again, this is what Ben does. O'Day is a serviceable favorite, -170. Adashev is +150. O'Day is the guy that I like this guy on the Contender Series when I was doing the Contender Series preview. Southpaw, very good striker, like a controlled aggression where he's controlled, but he has a good output, high output. Attacks with combos. He's quick. He's explosive. He's accurate. He can strike from range. Does really well when he's in the southpaw stance. He has like a check left hook that he uses to keep his range. A lot of flying. Like he'll throw a flying attack, flying knees, good calf kicks. Though he does really he plants his base to land some power, which is good, but that leaves him open to counter attacks on his legs. Relies a lot on head movement. And he makes a mistake of pulling his head straight back. That's a concern, and that's how Manel caught him. He is a good wrestler. Like, he's a 3-time Wisconsin state finalist. Again, people know how I feel about high school wrestling accolades, but he did wrestle in the NCAAs, which I like a lot better. He hardly ever uses his wrestling. That's something I've said in the past. But I do like in his last fight against TJ Vergara, we saw some wrestling out of him. Good ground and pound. He has 4 submission wins. One thing I don't like is that he will roll down to the ankles. It's just a risk, too risky for my liking. Adashev is counter striker. He can fight out of both stances. He's one of these all the way in, all the way out guys. He kind of fights in bursts where he kind of has big lulls of an action, and then suddenly he comes in throwing big combinations when he gets in the pocket. Throws a lot of winging power shots, and he does have some power. But as you mentioned, Sumadarji, he couldn't get inside him. He really struggled with the reach of Sumadarji. He had some good kicks against Ryan Benoit in his last fight, which I like. But he's also has a very boxing style, so he's heavy on that front foot. So he's open to calf kicks. And so far in the UFC, he's never gotten a takedown, which is something that I don't like. As far as prediction goes, I think this is a mismatch. Like, you're all in on Osbourne. I'm all in on Osbourne. I think he's too long. You think he's too fast. I think he's too accurate. Give me Osbourne. I think he's going to start him early. It gives me Osbourne by first round knockout. Now, at -1, like, I'm not the betting guy, but -170, like, I think that's a good line. I jump on it early. Like, I think he should have been like -250.
I agree. I got him at -160 a few days ago. I knew the line would kind of start creeping up. Should be around -225, -230, -235, somewhere around there. Because, I mean, he's got the tools. I mean, I just don't see what Adashev's really going to do, because at range,
I do too.
At range, it's going to be hard for him. He's just not. He's going to be a sitting duck because he doesn't move a lot either. His head's normally on the center line. He's going to get hit a lot.
Yeah, I really get Adashev like a puncher's chance, like landing a big shot.
That's pretty much it.
Cop did it, so it can happen, but I'm not betting on it. Moving on, we stay in the flyweight division as we have another key matchup, as we have Jeff Molina as a -190 favorite take on Zalgas Zumagulov at +160. Molina's, it's tricky. He's like he's a little very opposite of the guy we just spoke about, Ode Osbourne. Like, he's a very minus athlete, but he's so technically sound. He's a very technically sound striker, southpaw, bit of an outfighter, or he works a good output from the outside. Kind of pressures, but does well to still keep his opponent at the end of his strikes. A lot of kicks to the body, kicks to the calves. He will throw some naked leg kicks, but I don't like. And for such a technically sound fighter, he can get drawn into a brawl. But he has the chin, and he showed that he can eat a shot and land some of his own. Plus power, I wouldn't say he's got huge power in the division, but he's got some stinging power. I think he's a very underrated wrestler. He's got good entries, also some body lock takedowns, solid takedown defense if you're trying to take him down. Once on top, I like that he stays busy, looking to advance position on the ground. Good back control. He has 4 submissions wins. The one thing I don't like about his grappling is he's a little too aggressive on the ground. He'll lose position trying to chase a submission, which isn't there. Zumagulov, much different than Molina in the sense that he's not very technical. So like my notes on him is not going to be that much. He's all intangibles. He's a southpaw who's a pressure striker that's all output, has the cardio to go hard all 15 minutes, and he's going to press it all 15 minutes. A lot of hooks. He likes to get in the pocket, throw big power shots, especially like a little short like lead hook. But he's, for a guy who throws a lot of power shots, I don't think he's a big cracker. Like some of that has to do with just being at 125. There's not many. As far as his wrestling, I think his wrestling's a little overrated too. Like, he'll shoot on the hips, but he's more of a grinder. He's more like try to close the distance, grind against the cage, weigh her out in there, and kind of use his cardio. Zumagulov doesn't have many weapons, but he just makes up for it with output, which obviously is a good attribute. But Molina is just so much cleaner. I think he uses the better footwork to keep his distance. I think he's going to pick apart from long range with punches. I also think he's going to be able to stuff some takedowns. And I think it's going to – I mean, Molina's a guy who's been on the rise in the division. I think he's going to continue. So give me Molina by decision.
Yeah, I got Molina as well. I got him actually earlier in the week around -160. I like that line. I kind of start skyrocketing from there because there was getting a lot of hype around Jeff Molina, on Twitter, and then rightfully so. The dude's a stud, great personality as well. Everybody likes him, and and he's a gamer. He comes to fight. He's ready to throw down. He's ready to get in there, get dirty. I like that. Fight for your money. That's another thing I like about him. I mean, he could take a punch. So, he's got everything you want, when you're betting on a fighter. As far as Zumagulov, I've cashed in on him, especially when he fought Jerome Rivera. I mean, I couldn't get any easier there. But that's when he's at his best. But then you see him at his worst against Manel Kape. Zumagulov has to be the one that's the aggressor. Because once he is the one that's on his back foot, that's where he tends to kind of fade and get caught up against the fence, and you're able to tee off on him. And that's where I think Molina will be the aggressor. I feel like he's the one that's going to be pushing the pace and making sure that Zhumagulov the one that's always on his back foot, circling around and trying to get on the outside, because he needs to use his kicks. He uses his kicks a lot. And I just don't see him being able to really fight his fight. And his fight is coming forward and being able to use his aggression to his advantage, being able to come in and out, use his movement. But if Molina starts walking him down, I think he's eventually going to land the kill shot and take him out.
All right, guys. So, again, I want to stress that we recorded this a little earlier than we normally do. A lot of that has to do with bringing a new guy, me taking the technical realm, being that that's not usually what I do, usually what Ben does. So because we were recording early and the fact that the UFC website was not updated at all, I checked all the, Sherdog and all the different websites that have fight order. The fight orders were all over the place. According to several websites, this is on the main card. Why it's on the main card, I don't know. I'm hoping that I'm wrong, and this is like this could easily be the curtain jerker. We have a matchup between Poliano Botelho versus UFC newcomer Karina Silva, but this is the closest fight on the betting lines, with Botelho at even money, while Silva is a very slight favorite at -120. So there could be a lot of money made on this fight based on the close lines. Garrett, tell the listeners, how do they make money?
Oh man, this is a tough one. It's close for a reason, because I don't think highly of either one of these two. But if I had to go out on a limb here, I'd probably take Karine Silva. I like what I kind of saw from her on Contender Series. Now, normally I don't like taking Contender Series debut fighters. They tend to not do well. But yeah. I feel like this is the right person to bet on, because she's fought decent competition outside of the UFC. She even fought Marina Maktakina. I can't really pronounce it. Who's a lightweight for the PFL. So this girl's. Oh
yeah. I know you're talking about. Yeah.
This is a girl that's fought, as high as bantamweight, as high as, I don't know if she went even to featherweight, but this is a girl that's pretty big, and Poliana Botelho is not.
Yeah, I'm gonna interrupt you real quick, because two things I address. One, you are correct. Her name is Karine Silva, even though my notes say Karina Silva. But to the UFC and whoever decides on the order of the fights, if this fight is on the main card and Erin Blanchfield versus JJ Aldrich is on the prelims, someone needs to be fired, like immediately. Like that person who sets it needs to be fired. Okay, carry on with your.
We can hope this is not on the main card, because that's just bad. And then on top of it, you might have Felice Herrig and Karolina Kowalkiewicz on the main card as well. I don't think so. There's no way. At least hopefully there's no way. But
there's some name value there. You have Felice Herrig was on The Ultimate Fighter, and she's like a pretty girl that she kind of was flaunting her sexuality, so she got a lot of Instagram followers. And then Karolina Kowalkiewicz has fought for the title and stuff, so there's a little bit of backstory, even though the last time either one of those guys fought, I think like Herbert Hoover was the president. Or last time they won, I should say.
Yeah, they haven't won in forever. So, and guess what? Someone's gonna beat their losing streak coming up. True. So someone will win on that fight. But as far as this fight goes,
that's how much we don't want to talk about this fight.
Yeah,
right. Fight in the middle of it.
It's hard, but like I said, if I'm siding with someone, I think the size and the power of Silva will overcome maybe the UFC experience that Botelho has. But Silva's got some pretty good experience outside the UFC. She's also 14-4. She's even more experienced than Botelho. So yeah, I got Silva here. I'm not running to the bank and throwing all my money on it, but yeah, I got her winning this fight.
Okay. Botelho she's a Muay Thai style kickboxer, pretty aggressive. I would say serviceable boxer, like her hands got some pop in them, but nothing that jumps off the page. Her kicking game is good though. Hard body kicks, quick head kick, strong like plum clinch, where she showed that off against Pro Gonzalez, beat up Pro Gonzalez in the clinch. solid takedown defense, but if you can put her on her back, she really struggles on the ground. Silva, you mentioned she's a good boxer, pretty fast, throws straight punches down the pipe, combos, teep kicks. She threw a lot of teep kicks in that Contender Series matchup, fast high kick, but she's also like super jacked.
Yeah, she is.
Like she got some big arms. Decent entries as far as a grappling. I like that she doesn't have the best entries, but she chains in her takedown attempts together. Doesn't give up on the takedowns. Does well to like cut the corner and little things to get a takedown that she was sprawled out on. I like that. Good back take. She has 5 submission wins. She got some subs off her back. She actually almost got a Gogo Plata on the Contender Series, which would have been crazy. But she struggles to get back up. She plays a little BJJ for my liking instead of using openings to get back up. So I'm going to agree with you. I'm going to go with the newcomer. I think she can work her way inside the pocket. I think she can land some power shots. I think once she gets inside, she'll get some takedowns. I can see a lot of ground and pound, passing the guard, a lot of submission tips for 15 minutes. I don't think she'll get a submission. Actually, no, I'm going to say she does. I'll say Silva gets a late submission in the 3rd round.
I can see it.
Moving on, a fight that we already started breaking down. We have a rematch between fighters that, I don't know, a rematch between fighters haven't fought in forever, haven't won in forever, and a rematch that I don't know anybody was calling for this rematch. There is no betting lines right now on this one, so we'll just call it even across the board, so we won't say who's a favorite. Garrett, 2 questions before we actually get to the breakdown. Did you want this rematch? And 2, do you remember the first fight?
I didn't remember that there was a first fight until you told me.
Okay. The reason why I asked you this, I was looking and I went, when's the last time Karolina Kowalkiewicz won a fight? And I started scrolling. And I'm like, oh, wait, it was against Felice Herrig. I clicked on it and I go, I don't remember them fighting each other.
That's what I'm saying.
No, it gets worse. No, this is what I'm telling you. Some of it might have to do with my old age, but it gets worse. One, I rewatched the fight. It was actually a pretty good fight. But the worst part is why I couldn't remember it. I was in attendance for their fights. It was on the was it UFC? I don't know what number it was. It was a pay-per-view. It was the one in Brooklyn where all the fights fell apart. That was the Connor throwing the dolly. Yep. The main event ended up being Khabib Nurmagomedov versus Ali Quinta. So besides me being in attendance, there was like one of like 6 fights after it was all done. So Felice Herrig has been so inactive because she's had so many injuries, surgeries, torn ACLs. She hasn't won a fight since 2017. Oof. Like we're almost at 5 years since she's won a fight. It's hard to really get a grasp at her because being that we haven't seen her so long, so we kind of have to base off what we saw a really long time ago. She's a kickboxer with good output, bit of a point fighter though. She kind of lacks power. Chris jab. I like that she looks for takedowns. She's underrated. And her takedowns kind of like almost like an Andrea Lee where they're known for the kickboxing, but they'll sneak some takedowns in. She gets them from like the double underhooks, looking for a clinch. But her last fight, when we actually did see her fight, she got absolutely smoked on the ground by Verna Jandiroba, which a lot of people do. But some of it looked like, wow, Felice Herrig is a shell of her former self. And then even if she gets on the ground, she's not much of a submission. She only has 2 submission wins in her career. Now move over to Karolina Kowalkiewicz. She has this huge losing streak. She looks super unmotivated. I thought she was retired for a little bit, and I guess she came back out of retirement. You really wonder what's going on when you take those losses. They're very similar fighters. Like when I'm taking notes on them, Kowalkiewicz is a kickboxer who's got pretty good output, bit of a point fighter, lacks kind of power, kind of throws a lot of arm punches. And I'm like, oh, who does that sound like? It sounds a lot like what I just said about Felice Herrig. She has a much more kicking game though. And I think her clinch, her Muay Thai clinch is a little better, a little stronger. She looks for like inside elbows. She's not the wrestler that Herrig is, but in their fight, I rewatched it. They kind of killed 2 birds with 1 stone, watched both of them fight each other. She did sweep Felice Herrig, but her last fight, everything I said about Harry getting smoked on the ground by Virna Jandiroba, she got smoked on the ground by Jessica Penne and got quickly submitted by Jessica Penne, which I don't hold in the same regard as I do Virna Jandiroba. And again, she also isn't a submission threat. She only has one career sub. So as far as prediction go, one, we don't know what the betting line. So I can't give you any advice on that. I'm not that I'm the betting guy anyways, but like you can't have a lot of confidence in picking either one of those because we haven't seen them. You know, so you know, it's like Colin Kaepernick might return to the NFL. Do you really have confidence in, and this is not getting political, but like, do you have confidence in what he's going to look like? No, because we haven't seen him. Kind of the same way I feel about these ones. So Harry is probably the better wrestler. Kovacevic is better in the clinch. Kovacevic won a split last time. So I don't know if any chance. I'll say she wins a split again. So give me Kovacevic to go 2-0 against the Bulldog, the little Bulldog. Who you got?
Man, first and foremost, I'm totally passing this fight as far as betting goes. I want nothing to do with it. I don't want my money anywhere near it. This is one of those fights you can go, maybe grab a sandwich, make some food, go to the bathroom. But as far as breaking down this fight, it should be dead even. When the line does come out, I'm expecting a dead even type of fight, -110 across the board. And, it's like you said, it's hard to really know where you're going to get from one of them. They're both on terrible losing streaks. They're both at their worst. They both probably should be retired at this point. I really don't. I really don't know who's going to win this fight.
The sad thing is.
What?
if either one of these females got cut and moved up to 125, they'd probably be one win away from a title shot in Bellator.
Probably.
Yeah, all right, okay, carry on.
But man, so as far as picking a winner, it's really hard. I'd maybe go with Felice Herrig, maybe because she has a slight grappling advantage. She can land some takedowns. But man, that's really man. That's tough.
There you go.
that's all I really got.
You go with both should be retired. I go with the I don't remember them fighting and I was in attendance. Yeah, so this is what you guys tune in for. You know what?
Great analysis right there. Great.
Yeah, all the advice we give are free and it probably worth what you pay for. So, moving on, we are onto the co-main event, a fight that everything we just said about the last two fights not being excited, I feel the complete opposite. This is the fight that I'm really excited about. Dan Ige taking on Movsar Evloev. Big favorite, Evloev, -400, while Dan Ige is +300. I'll say this, and I'll let you make your prediction first. Regardless who I'm picking, I don't know if Dan Ige should be a +300 underdog to very few people in the division. Should Ige be that big of an underdog? So my question is, if we're going over the division and we say, all right, this guy, the top three guys in the division maybe should be that big of a favorite over Dan Ige. My question to you is Evloev in that conversation? Like, does he deserve to be this big of a favorite?
No, of course not. Absolutely
okay.
Not. No.
I'm not saying in the rankings. I mean, is he that good?
He's good, but I mean, he's not -3 something against a known commodity.
-400.
Right. -400. He against somebody in Dan Ige who's only fought the best and only lost to the best. So if you think of it that way, well, where does he, how is he gonna look like a -400 favorite in this fight? Like, he has to go in there and absolutely dominate from bell to bell for 15 minutes to look like a -400 favorite, or finish him, obviously. But I don't see him doing that. I mean, he lost the third round against Hakeem Dawodu in his last fight, and he faded as the fight kind of goes on. And Dan Ige has got great cardio. He's gone 25 minutes before, and he's looked really good. I wish this fight was 25 minutes because then I would be all over Danny Ige because the later the fight goes, he's going to only get better. And Movsar is not, a big, fighter. He's small. He used to fight at 135. So he's not going to have this big size advantage that most people have against Danny Ige. Where like Danny Ige was going against Calvin Kattar, much bigger than him. He's going against Chan Sung Jung, bigger than him. Josh Emmett, much bigger than him. I mean, that's his last 3 losses. And when he fought somebody, yeah, and then his last win was against a guy that's kind of similar in size in Gavin Tucker, and he absolutely starched him in 22 seconds. So I mean, if I'm betting on this fight, which I might, I'm kind of leaning to bet on Dan Ige. He's out of line where it's like you have to bet him. I mean, his last 3 losses, like we just said, Josh Emmett, Korean Zombie, Calvin Kattar. I mean, I'm pretty sure Movsar is losing to all 3 of them. So I'm taking Dan Ige here. I like him at plus 300. I think that's insane.
Are you taking him just strictly off the odds, or do you really think like if this was an even fight, he's winning?
I'm basing this off the odds. So there's
in a pick'em, who would you take?
I'd probably take Movsar in a pick'em fight. But like I did on Caitlin Vieira, I knew that fight was going to look like a pick'em fight on minus 110. I'm like, you're giving me Vieira at plus 205 in a fight that's I know it's going to look like neither one of them should be a heavy favorite. I'll take that plus 205. Same here. I think this fight's going to look like minus 110 across the board, and I'm getting Danny Ige at plus 300. Sign me up.
Yeah, and I think when you're betting and you're getting a huge underdog, you're not stressing it as much.
Exactly.
If you win, cool.
If you win, oh, you look fantastic. But if you lose, you're like, he was a huge underdog. You know what I mean? But if you're betting on a minus 400, you're sweating on minus 400.
And your payout's not even worth it.
Nope.
It's usually that's like he's the guy that like they break up your parlays because everyone sprinkles this big favorite in their parlay for some stupid reason because it doesn't really give you that much better odds. Right. And
that's why a lot of casual bettors would do like, there's no way he's losing. Just throw him in there, and that's where, the line starts to increase because there's a lot of the public bettors are, they're betting one way, just throwing this guy into the parlays. They're not getting too much buyback on Dan Ige. So they're just getting, it's creeping up from there.
Yeah, and you go from winning $100 to winning $110 if you win. It's like a big deal.
Yeah, like you bid $100, you're probably winning like nothing. Yeah.
Like
$15.
Ige is really well rounded. Like he you know what Ige reminds me of, and I don't mean this in what they actually do in the cage, but their mindset. He reminds me a lot of Bilal Muhammad. What I mean by that is his talent doesn't like jump off the page to you. But he makes up for it for just being intelligent. Like he's going to have a good game plan. He's going to say like, this is my best avenue of victory. This is the route I got to do. And he's going to fight that way. Like it might not always work out, but he'll make it much closer than it is or like give him every opportunity to win. Now, he marches forward, high output striking, which is probably his best bet against, as you mentioned, against Evloev is he did fade late, stays tight in the pocket with his boxing. He throws hard. I'd say plus power, really whips his shots, throws combinations. I like this. He has this like slip right, straight right, left hook combination. He loves throwing tons of heart. Like he's going to be in the fight. Even if he's getting like 10-8 round in the first round, he's showed against like Edson Barboza, against Calvin Kattar, like he can take a ton of damage and he's going to keep coming hard. Hard leg kicks. I love that he will throw like a flying knee to close the distance, and it's not even to land the knee; it's to like when he was going against Edson Barboza. Was like, do I want to be in Edson Barboza's kicking range? No, let me throw a flying knee just to help me like shorten the distance faster than any other way I could be. I love that. That just shows his intelligent, underrated wrestler. He really is. He's got some good reactionary double, nice timing on his entries. He's a good grappler, good at winning scrambles. Good top control, good ground pound. He's a BJJ black belt. Evloev, I'm a lot higher. I feel like I'm a lot higher on him than you are. I think he's really good. I think he's well-rounded. I think he's got high output on the feet, technically sound. He's fast, nice sting. Everything comes off like one of the best jabs in the game. Great head movement, slipper rip style, beautiful body work. He does really good to like slip a shot and then keep himself, like he'll slip and keep himself in range where so many guys will slip or turn and be out of range. He doesn't. He slips and keeps himself in range to land the counter shot. That's where you get hurt your opponent. He's got a large arsenal of attacks. I love that he'll throw like a combination in with a high kick. Like not many people do that. Or like throw a combination in with a spinning back fist on it. Great wrestler, fast entries. I do agree that he's a little undersized. I think he actually would be better at 135, but perfect timing on reactionary doubles if you pressure him. Really good, good at winning scrambles. Good at shooting when his opponent starts to open up their own strikes. Like good at timing that. His top game isn't great though. And I think that's a little bit to do with his size. He isn't a submission threat. His defensive wrestling is, out of everything, is probably his hold. Like he was taken down by Barzola, by Grundy, by Nick Lentz. All three of them are good wrestlers. So, but like I wouldn't put Ige on their level of wrestling, but he's not far behind. And so, like, it wouldn't surprise me if Ige gets some takedowns. You mentioned that he lost late to Hakeem Dawodu, and I agree with that. But let's not forget how amazing he was the first two rounds.
Right. He was dominant. He was dominant.
Like he was 10-8 in them. I mean, he was making a striker want to wrestle. I mean, well actually, let's not get too much. Dawodu, he wrestles a lot more than people think. But like a guy who's known for his striking was really struggling. I love this fight. It's my favorite fight in the entire card. Which I'm saying in agreement with you, like the lines are way off. Like this should be much closer. Talent-wise, Evloev should win. However, Ige is that, as you mentioned, that ultimate gamer. I could see him get some takedowns on Evloev. Maybe like I could see him sneaking 2 out of 3 rounds with just that. That's exactly like the kind of game Ige does. However, on the feet, Evloev just lands the better shots. I really feel like this is a little bit of a passing of the torch moment. This is the name that Evloev needs on his resume, and I just think he's going to get ahead of him with the first 2 rounds. And even if Ige has a big surge at then, I think it's going to be a little too late. Give me Evloev by decision.
I like
with that, we come to the main event. We have 2 heavyweights who are really in need for a win to stay relevant at the top of the division. We have Alexander Volkov taking on Jairzinho Rozenstruik. Before we get to a prediction, just give me your thoughts on that as a main event. Are you happy with that as a main event, or do you think these guys at this point in their career should be like relegated a little bit down, or they still think they're main event worthy?
I mean, it's typical UFC. It's what they do. They put in middling heavyweights as main event fighters for what reason we will never know. If they're not heavy hitters, these two aren't for the most part. Rozenstruik can bang, but when he fights against guys that have technical striking to their abilities, like Alexander Volkov, you're going to get a chess match for 25 minutes from these two guys, and that's what I'm expecting. So we'll see what we get. Hopefully we get a barn burner, but it's not a fight that I'm really wow.
Let me ask you this. If I told you that Volkov is younger than Rozenstruik, would you believe that?
No.
Yeah, he is.
How much younger?
He's 33. Rozenstruik's 34.
Not that much, but yeah. Well,
yeah, but it's one of those ones. I think of one as a veteran. I think of the other one as like a budding prospect.
Right.
And you forget like how long of a kickboxing career he had.
Biggie Boy's not even 6'2" either. He's like 6 foot.
Yeah, he's one of the shorter guys in the division. So tell us, you're on the clock. Tell me who gets who ends the night being the last person to get their hand raised.
I mean, it's hard not to take Volkov in the spot. This is pretty much a tailor-made matchup for him. This is a guy where, with Rozenstruik, he's got big power, doesn't throw a lot of volume, so he's gonna rely on that one punch to knock you out. And I don't think that's gonna happen. Volkov normally has some, good, chin on him, other than the Derek Lewis fight.
And that was a long time ago.
Yeah, exactly. So
Derek Lewis, in fairness, is the hardest striker in history. I mean, he's got the most knockouts in the heavyweight division. I should say this before you continue. Volkov is the favorite. He's negative 165. Rozenstruik's plus 135 underdog. So a pretty close line. Go ahead, continue.
Yeah, I just this is a type of matchup that Volkov wins. I mean, he's very good at, keeping at range. He's got those super long limbs, the long legs. He's much more technical than Rozenstruik. Rozenstruik's going to have to use a ton of leg kicks, and batter that lead leg of Volkov and, get him gingerly on that leg, which could happen if he keeps hammering it. I could see that. But I just think Volkov is a much, much, much better striker, and Rozenstruik just has a puncher's chance. He's not a grappler like Tom Aspinall. He's not as fluent on the feet like Cyril Gane. He's not a wrestler like Curtis Blades, and he's not a heavy puncher like Derek Lewis. I got Volkov running away with this fight.
All right. I feel a lot of things you're saying, like, when I think of Volkov, obviously the first thing that jumps out to me is just how massive the guy is. Long, lengthy, massive heavyweight. I mean, he's like freaking almost 7 feet tall. I mean, what is he, like 6'7" or something like that? Yeah, I mean, he's practically 7 feet tall. I mean, he could be in the NBA. Very, as you said, technically sound striker. Really accurate, like something he doesn't get enough credit for. Good at keeping his range, using his jab, throwing straight punches down the pipe. Works the body with teep kicks and stepping knees, like all the things you want to do if you're a long, lengthy guy. If you get inside in him, he does really well to circle out, get back to his range, do his thing. He stays on his game plan, just touches. He's not a guy who like unloads big shot, just touches until there's an open, and then he'll kind of throw a little harder so he doesn't really gas himself out. You mentioned like killer chin. I mean, only Derek Lewis caught him, and that's Derek Lewis. The issue with him is his ground game. I mean, Curtis Blades took him down 14 times in a fight, but he did show some improvement against Marcin Tybura. But Tom Aspinall just made him look like an amateur. So, so that's not good. I think of a lot like the Greg Hardy fight where he can cruise at times. Like he'll do just enough to win, never put himself in danger. And that's kind of how you want to fight a Rozenstruik. Rozenstruik, is obviously a very experienced kickboxer. He's very loose and very composed on the feet, but patient to like a fault. To the point where he's just gun shy. You go to the Cyril Gane fight, he's not throwing punches. I think about like Alistair Overeem, where he had to need a big comeback in the last round. He's just giving away rounds, and he's much better striker at that point of their career, and he's just refusing to throw. Like even like we remember him knocking out like JDS, but he's losing early, but just not letting his hands go. When good Rozenstruik's there, he's a counter striker that is deadly when he lets his hands go. He has a power jab. Not a lot of tells, not a lot of loading up. Everything's short. That's where he has like when he knocks guys out, it's not this big looping. I mean, the Alistair Overeem one is not a good example, but it's short inside strikes. He has some of the most beautiful knockouts. I mean, think about that. I keep mentioning it. It sounds like a broken record, but the uppercut he lands on Alistair Overeem, where his lip goes flying into the back wall of the arena. I think of that like hook he lands when he timed Augusto Sakai circling, like the little intelligent things he can do. Like when he didn't throw at Sakai, he threw to where Sakai was going to step to. That shows the kind of experience he has. Defensively, and this would be a big problem against Volkov, he has a lack of head movement, and that's because of that Muay Thai style to him where they kind of hide behind the hands more than moving. But you said he doesn't have a lot of power. I disagree with that. I actually think Rozenstruik has really big power.
He does. And, majority of his wins are by knockout. It's just when he gets a fighter that's willing to oblige and, kind of stand there, be stationary like a Sakai who's like, as stationary as one can be, he's going to land his power. But when you get a fighter like a Cyril Gane, like an Alexander Volkov, who's kind of actually hard to hit because they're very good at keeping range, his power is really, I don't think it's going to be too much of a factor. Yeah, I don't expect it to be here.
He reminds me of like a big friendly Rottweiler who like a little bratty kid's walking up to him, like pulling on his ears and like pushing him. And at any time that Rallo can just turn his head and like bite that kid's nose off, but he just kind of sits there and you're like, man, why is he not doing anything? Like, why is he not throwing back? Why is he doing this? That would drive you crazy. But you mentioned the kicks. The kicks are his best game. He has got hard kicks, really turns on his hips. He generates really good power. He targets the calves, which is obviously such a huge target with some of the way Volkov is built. But also, like Volkov, his takedown defense is terrible. He's got no get-up game at all. We don't ever see Volkov wrestle, but if Volkov's ever going to wrestle, this would be the fight to wrestle. Rozenstruik is in that category that me and Ben talk about, to just yell at the TV type fighters if you pick them.
Yep.
I call it the John Dodson Club, where you pick John Dodson and you're pulling your hair out and you're like, John Dodson's so much better than this guy, but he's just dancing around doing nothing. That's how I feel about Rozenstruik. Like he's got all the tools to starch Volkov.
Yeah, he does.
And to me, it just comes down to whether he lets his hands go. If he presses a pace and lets his hands go, I really think he's quicker. I think he can. I think he hits harder. I think he can go down the body, the kicks. I think the opposite. I think Volkov is tailor made for Rozenstruik, but Rozenstruik doesn't know that. You know what I mean? Like everybody else goes like, yeah. Like if you throw some offense, you're gonna win. But I can see Rozenstruik like backing himself up to the cage and doing jack shit, and just like eating kick kicks.
You don't know.
Doing nothing.
You don't know what you're going to get from him.
I know. It's so frustrating. So this is the dilemma I'm at. And this is when I make picks, I would say 90% of the time I pick with my mind, what I see on camera. And then 10% I go with, like, I know everything tells me this guy should win, but just that gut that he won't do it. And my gut is saying, do not pick Rozenstruik. Like, he's not going to do shit. It's going to be so frustrating. He's going to eat jabs and teep kicks for 25 minutes and not do shit.
I see that happening. I really do.
But 90% of me is like, dude, he just has to throw. He'll win this fight. He's the better fighter on the feet. So the entire I'm really like, this is the card. This is the fight I've been like, I'm not betting on this one at all, but this is the one that really frustrates me. I don't know what the over underline. I'd probably go over because of that. The entire the first half during the prelims, I was taking tons of underdogs. The second half, I've been taking all favorites. I'm gonna put a bow on this. I'm gonna go with the underdog again. I'm gonna go Rozenstruik. I'm gonna say he catches him. I think he's gonna finally let his hands go. I say he's gonna hurt Volkov. I say he's gonna do it in the third round. Give me Rozenstruik with, I'm gonna say third round TKO with a lot of no confidence. A lot of I already know I made the wrong pick. So there you have it. We disagree on the main event. Garrett will show why he's making money every weekend, and I'm doing a recap show with Ben saying, why the hell did I do that? What was I knew I was getting that one wrong. Garrett, before we let you go, I thank you for coming on. You did great. Tell all the listeners where they can find you.
Yeah, you guys can find me at Fight Analyst LLC on Twitter and the Fight Analyst on Facebook and Instagram as well. And you can catch all my work at the All-Star Sports as well as Sportskeeda and my YouTube channel.
So there you guys have it. Make sure you follow him on Twitter and all those things. Make sure you check out all his work. We will have him on many times in the future. And guys, enjoy the fights. Ben will be back for the recap. We'll be right after, about 15 minutes after the event. We'll be talking about all the action. Until then, you can also head over to Sherdog, check out all the other articles. Obviously, do all the stuff that I always forget to tell you to do. Make sure you like this video, subscribe, share. Check out other videos on the Sherdog YouTube page and tell a friend all about this. Until then, see you guys next time.